the Tush push needs to be gone yesterday. Maybe James Franklin takes this job. That's kind of what LSU is looking for. Someone to really, really care about college football. I think El Clasico is actually back, and I love it. The Internet Invitational golf tournament, the biggest controversy and drama that happened on day one was Luke Kwan. My biggest problem is just not to have the decency to apologize to your teammates. And on top of that, was literally belittling PFT. Welcome back, everybody, to the From the Stands podcast. This is episode 84, coming at you on October 29th, 2025. If you're watching on YouTube, you can obviously see that Sam is not here with me. Unfortunately, he is busy this week and couldn't find the time to hop on the pod. And obviously, as you guys know, this is not our full-time gig, so finding time to really do this every week is really, really hard. And sometimes things come up, and obviously we have jobs and families that take priority that we have to, obviously pour most of our time into. So unfortunately, you guys are stuck with me tonight. I'm going to try my best to give you guys a really, really good podcast, a little out of my element, because I love bouncing things off of Sam and being able to have that conversation, kind of the basis of why we started the podcast in the first place. But we will do our best, and we will get Sam on here next week. With that being said, we are trying to grow this podcast as much as we can, especially before the end of the year. So if you guys could like and subscribe first and foremost on YouTube, that would be huge. We would appreciate that a ton. Also, go to Spotify and Apple Podcast and rate and follow there. That would be awesome as well. And we would really, really appreciate it if you guys would do that. And also share the podcast with a friend or family member that likes sports, might be looking for a podcast that, is different, a new podcast to listen to, just a different podcast with different opinions, different angles. That would be awesome. And we would appreciate that as well. Like I said, I'm going to try to do my best to be as entertaining as I can with just being me. Got a ton of sports to dive into. Huge NFL game this past weekend. Rodgers facing the Packers for the first time since he left Green Bay. Huge game, huge implications, really a measuring stick game for kind of both teams. We'll dive into that. And then we'll kick it over to some CFP with Brian Kelly getting fired at LSU. Another giant job in the college football space open. We'll kind of talk about who we think should fill those spots and kind of dive into that here in a little bit. Big game in Europe, El Clasico. I think it's back, guys. I think El Clasico might be back. Obviously, it hasn't been the same since Ronaldo and Messi left. Really, that rivalry has kind of tanked over the years, but I think we're getting it back. Some comments said before, comments said during, comments said after, fight afterwards. I think that animosity and kind of that fire that, we know El Clasico to have kind of in full effect here this past weekend. So we'll dive into a little of that. And then we'll round off the pod with kind of touching base with some NBA, some baseball, and something we don't ever talk about. Obviously, we've tried to talk about golf a little bit more, but we never really talk about YouTube golf. It's something that I really like, so I figured, just kind of fill up some space. We're going to talk about the Internet Invitational that's kind of sweeping over the internet right now with lots and lots of drama going on. Huge controversy going on in the Internet Invitational, so we will talk about that here at the end of the podcast, so stay tuned for that. Getting right into the NFL action. Like I said, we're going to talk Steelers versus Packers. That's predominantly what we're going to talk about. We'll touch on a few games. Again, it's just me, so trying to keep this as concise and short as we can so you guys don't get bored of my voice, because I definitely get bored of it sometimes. But Steelers versus Packers. Packers get a dub in Pittsburgh, 35-25. Like I kind of mentioned in the intro, this is kind of going to be a measuring stick game, mostly for the Steelers to really see, one, how bad their defense has been this year. And let's just get that out of the way. atrocious. I'm pretty sure they're dead last in passing defense. They get thrown all over the field. And the biggest thing is they are the most expensive defense in the NFL. Most expensive defense in the NFL. If you hear that at the beginning of the season that they're spending here, I think I have it written down here, $162 million on their defense. That's $24 million more than the next team in the NFL. And it's the Pittsburgh Steelers, like known for their defense. Their offense is usually, I wouldn't say terrible. It's below average, definitely below average most of the time because we haven't had a decent quarterback since Big Ben. That's a whole nother topic to get into, and the mediocrity that we find ourselves in all the time. But with that being said, $162 million, getting some bigger names like Ramsey coming in, who's over the past few weeks obviously lost a step. Aging cornerback, can play all over the field, really plugs up some holes, but like, I mean, he was just getting dominated by Jamar Chase, and Flacco was throwing all over the secondary a couple weeks ago. So, I mean, as a Steelers fan, this really hurts because we brought Aaron Rodgers in, which is another topic, which I'll touch on here in a little bit. But we brought Aaron Rodgers in not to save the franchise because the franchise didn't need saving. We have a good coach, we have a good management, good organization, good culture, a really really well run team. And so we bring Rodgers in just to kind of fill the gap for a year until we can draft a quarterback or develop the quarterback that we drafted this past season as he sits under Aaron Rodgers, kind of like Jordan Love did, and we'll touch on Jordan Love in a little bit. But he's coming in to be like just run the offense, be a decent offense. And that's the other part of the measuring stick in this game, was to see how decent, I guess you would say, our offense actually was. And I would say our offense is actually pretty decent. A lot of boneheaded penalties, really shooting ourselves in the foot. Our red zone offense needs to get a lot better. But across the board, at the deadline, we got to do something to figure out our secondary on defense. Like I said, dead last in the NFL in passing defense, and that can't happen because once we get to the playoffs, which I think we have a good chance because our division is really winnable. I mean, you have the Ravens, who just came off a decent win against Chicago, obviously, with their backup quarterback, with Lamar out. When he comes back, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Cincinnati defense really bad. I would say overall their defense is probably worse than ours, but it's got to be close. And then obviously the Browns, which is a dumpster fire. And I've been on this podcast before saying, yeah, they're probably going to be the worst team in the NFL, right down there with the New Orleans Saints. On the flip side, Packers measuring stick game. Obviously, our defense isn't that great. Putting up 35 points on a bad defense, that's what that offense should do. So no problems with the offense. Their defense is really where they're shining this year. Obviously, acquiring Micah Parsons from the Cowboys in a blockbuster trade that happened right before the season started. And he's already paying dividends for sure. It was late in the fourth, kind of when we really really needed a push. He was getting pressure. I think he had a sack. I don't know. I don't have that stat in front of me, but definitely getting to the quarterback this year, really wrecking games for any team that they play, getting to the opposing quarterback, and that's just going to help an already good defense just be better, because when the quarterback's internal clock in his head is sped up, I mean, it's kind of lights out from there. When you're affecting the quarterback that much as a defensive player and you're getting double team, which is freeing up some other really good defensive linemen to get to the quarterback, I mean, that's kind of a wrap for the other offense. So yeah, all in all, I would say that we put up a decent fight. Really don't like to drop that game at home. That's never what you want to see. Obviously it was a special moment with Rodgers playing his former team that he was with for 18 seasons. Obviously won a Super Bowl with them. All of his MVPs came there. Kind of as Rodgers sails off, excuse me, into the sunset. It would have been cool for him to get this win. Definitely would have helped our season for sure. But obviously not to be. And I believe this actually kept him from becoming the fifth quarterback to beat every team in the NFL. So maybe he'll get that chance later on. But obviously, he's been on record saying that this is probably his last year, and just with how he's aging and how he tends to look, I would say that's probably smart on his part, anyways. But before we get off this game, we got to talk about Jordan Love. The Packers should be in the Super Bowl if Jordan Love plays like this. Doesn't turn the ball over, gets the balls to really all the weapons. Tucker Kraft has been phenomenal. Obviously, they got Josh Jacobs in that backfield, who is obviously a top 5 running back, in the league. If he's not turning the ball over, they should go to the Super Bowl. And dare I say it, they should probably win it. Because Sam and I have been talking, off pod, on pod, about how there's really no great team to show themselves in the NFL. I mean, the Bills defense isn't doing well. Kansas City's kind of hitting their stride, but still there's some questions with them. Lions, questions with them, obviously. Baltimore, who knows if they're even going to make the playoffs. So like a lot of these contending teams, yeah, there's levels, but there's really no team that's just like wrecking everybody. Some might say the Colts, but if you look at their record, who have they really beat? I mean, you can say it's the NFL. Like if you're beating anybody in the NFL, sure. I mean, 7-1. Obviously, I personally need to see a little bit more. I think they're a really good team. I would still put them in the contender category because if you look at their stats, if you look at their record, if you look at all the players they have, the roster, the coaching, like they look like a contending team. I just got to see a little bit more. Give me like 2 more weeks. This coming week against the Steelers will be a good test. And you're like, how's it a good test when you're so down in the Steelers? Steelers are like the competition compared to what they've played so far. Opposed to, there's some teams that they've played that, aren't terrible, but I think the Steelers is going to be the first like really, really big game for them. So I just got to see more from the Colts. But the Packers, be on the watch. They should end up in the Super Bowl if Jordan Love can carry this form into the playoffs. Obviously, we know he got that big win against the Cowboys, but that was the Cowboys. They kind of imploded on themselves. And then after that, proceeded to lose that playoff game. So we'll see if Jordan Love can take them all the way to the mountaintop. That'll be something that we're keeping an eye on for sure. Before we get out of the NFL portion of this podcast, obviously we got to talk about something that Sam is very, very passionate about. The Tush push needs to be gone yesterday. I have been on record saying I don't really like it. I'm not as fervent in my stance as Sam is. Obviously, being a Cowboys fan, he hates everything Eagles, which, that is obviously what is the word I'm trying to say here? That is obviously to be expected. That's what I was trying to say. Obviously, Sam's going to hate the Eagles. Obviously, that's to be expected. But the Tush push has gotten to a point where it's just a bad look, not only for the Eagles, but for the entire NFL, that we allow this to keep happening. And by this, what I mean is the blatant miscalls on the Tush push. I'm not even talking about false starts anymore. This past weekend, playing the Giants, there was a play where they ran the Tush push and Jalen Hurts was obviously extending forward trying to get the first down. That's what the Tush push is for. Tush push is momentum going forward, and obviously why it quote unquote works is because they're always able to move forward. Hence, there should be no reason you are calling forward progress until he is down or the play is actually stopped and his forward progress has been stopped. There was a moment in this game where they ran the Tush push and Jalen Hurts was reaching the ball forward, the operative word, the main term that we need to focus on, pushing the ball, reaching forward. while he was moving forward, a defensive player on the Giants grabbed the ball, stripped him. Mind you, Jalen Hurts is on a pile of his offensive linemen, not down, no knee, no forearm, nothing, touching the turf, making it so he's down. And so he is stripped. And then a whistle comes in after the ball is stripped, after the defensive player from the Giants has the ball. And they go, oh, well, his forward progress was stopped. They even reviewed this play. So this isn't just like an on-field decision where they're just like, oh, yeah. And by the way, you got it wrong on the field. We're going to look at it. Oh, yep, that's right. Forward progress was stopped. No, on the replay that everybody was seeing in the stadium and on TV, obviously Jalen Hurts was still going forward, was not down by contact, and was stripped. What's that in football? A fumble. It's an obvious fumble. But no, because it's the Eagles, because it's the Tush Push, because for some strange reason, we just decide that all rules don't apply to this play, especially when the Eagles run it. Not a fumble. Was this like a huge turning point in the game where the Giants going to win the game? No, but it's just an abomination to see the blatant missed calls when it comes to this play. Like, again, I'm not just talking the offsides. I'm not just talking all the pre-movement before the ball snapped. I'm talking about blatantly missing a call that would give the other team an opportunity to take the ball away, which is huge in football, is winning the turnover battle. And like I said, again, would this change the outcome of this game, the Giants? Probably not. But it's really become a disgrace at this point. And I've heard all the different opinions on if it should stay in the game or not. My opinion, and Sam and I are gonna die on this hill. We're gonna plant our flag in the ground, get the Tush Push out of the game. One, it's not great, appealing, fun to watch football. But two, it's also not being officiated correctly, and dare I say unfairly, for the Eagles. And that's just not a good look. Not a good look for the Eagles, not a good look for the NFL. So they need to do something about it. Obviously, something won't be done until the end of the season, but I just had to get that out of the way because I know if Sam was on the podcast, this would have probably led the football section of the podcast, and we just need to talk about it because I'm fed up with it too, and I don't even hate the Eagles as much as Sam does. I'm just a NFL fan that is rooting for fairness and the game to be called, because I'm not even touching on what happened in the Steelers game. I won't. I'll leave that. That stuff happens, but get the Tush Push out literally like yesterday. Lastly, before we kind of move on to some college football, sad news, Cam Scataboo in that same game dislocated his right ankle. I think after the game, obviously we didn't know a lot, but now, a few days removed, he had a broken bone, also ruptured ligament in his ankle as well. Obviously, the thing, if you guys watched it, I hate seeing this kind of stuff. I saw it multiple times because it was all over the internet. Homeboys, everybody remember the Hayward injury like years back when he was playing for the Celtics? I think it might have been his first game for the Celtics or something wild like that. I could be getting that wrong. Do not quote me on that. But anyways, you guys know what I'm talking about. The Gordon Hayward injury where his foot was sideways, literally the sideways. And it was disgusting to look at then. It was disgusting to see the Cam Scataboo injury as well. But on top of that, just a great player for the NFL. Hard-nosed, tough, little, strong running back that everybody root for. Like, he was one of those players you couldn't hate. Sure, he's a little weird. Sure, he's a little eccentric. But, like, dude, he's living his best life in the NFL. He's giving a fan base and an organization massive amounts of hope and reasons to root for the Giants again, obviously with Jackson Dart playing as well. Huge loss for the NFL as a whole. You don't even have to be a Giants fan to really to feel the weight of that. Just I loved watching this guy play. I tuned into the Giants games. I thought it was really cool what they were doing. Obviously switching to Jackson Dart, and he really, like kind of burst on the scene. I think he was running back 2 for the longest time to start the season, and then really started winning that the starting job there. And obviously he's going to be out for the rest of the season. Obviously has a long road to recovery. So prayers up for Cam Scataboo. Obviously that kind of puts a damper on the Giants season. They weren't going to make the playoffs anyways, in my opinion. They obviously were on a good run. We'll see how they do without him. Obviously still have Jackson Dart, who's really, really good rookie quarterback for sure. But huge loss for the Giants, and huge loss for anybody that's just an NFL or football fan in general. Okay, switching gears to some CFP action. We're really going to just play on this topic because there are so many games in college football. Obviously, a lot of good SEC matchups going on. Alabama squeaked by South Carolina. Ole Miss beat Oklahoma. Huge games. Obviously, we're pretty removed from that. So for me to kind of just talk about it would be redundant for probably whatever you've already heard throughout the week from different podcasts, different media outlets. So we're good. I'm just going to kind of give my opinion on the Brian Kelly dismissal of his from LSU this past Sunday when it all went down. Obviously, they had a home game against Texas A&M, which I will preface and say Texas A&M is good, but you should not be losing that badly at home. If you're LSU, you should not be losing that badly at home to an SEC team like that. And what do I mean like that? I mean, their fans emptied in the fourth quarter. It was like done and dusted. They didn't even show up to play. Some are speculating the players did that on purpose because they were just tired after the first half of Brian Kelly, which a lot of the people I listen to, because I will admit I don't keep up with college football. There's just so many sports. I don't have the time to keep up with college football as deeply as I would like to, especially for the podcast. But just listening to the different podcasts that I listen to, like Joel Klatt and Josh Pate, they were saying that, when Brian Kelly got hired there, it really wasn't that great of a fit. Like it didn't really make sense. And the little knowledge that I had when he left Notre Dame, I was like, it really didn't make sense either. You're leaving this great position, which, the Notre Dame fans are really salty towards him because, he's quoted as saying he's not going to win a national championship at Notre Dame. And lo and behold, a few seasons later, they go to the college football playoff championship game. I mean, Ohio State was a force to be reckoned with. Would have they won that game? They put up a really, really good fight. They were kind of a little in over their heads, but still amazing Notre Dame team. But I digress. Brian Kelly gets fired at LSU after getting destroyed at home against Texas A&M, who I think is currently ranked second in the nation right now. They're having a really, really, really good season. Yeah, I think it just kind of had to happen. I mean, it was a little bit of fool's gold at the beginning of the season when LSU beat Clemson. We all know how good Clemson isn't this season. Obviously, I've been burned by them because I had them. I'm on record on the podcast saying that Clemson was going to win the national championship. Obviously, they're not. Obviously, that game doesn't look as impressive. LSU beating Clemson at home. So obviously, LSU season hasn't gone the way that people thought when they came to the season. They were obviously contenders. I did not get it. They were ranked college football preseason. I'm trying to pull that up really quickly now. I'm pretty sure they were ranked, I want to say top 5, definitely top 10. Let's see, preseason AP poll. Let's see. They were ranked. LSU was top 10, 9th. Yeah, so that's the downfall of LSU has been steep this season. And I won't say it's as drastic as Clemson just cuz they're in the SEC. Obviously, the SEC has better competition than the ACC, even though the ACC is looking it's looking not like we thought, to put it to put it that way. But obviously, this was the biggest news to come out of the weekend of college football. 3 giant not giant games. Obviously, this was the biggest news to come out of the college football week this past weekend. So now we have 3, I would say, top 10 college football jobs that are open. We have the Penn State job with James Franklin getting fired, and then we have the Florida job where Napier got fired, and now we have Brian Kelly getting fired at LSU. So, like, I mean, those, like, 2 of them are in the SEC, and then Penn State is obviously, like, when you think of college football, you think of Penn State. Like, they're one of the names that pops into your brain. So really to see, like, it's going to be interesting to see who fills those positions. I know Lane Kiffin's name's probably on the top of the list, excuse me, of coaches that could potentially fill any one of those positions. I don't think he'll take the Penn State job because he's an SEC guy. He's going to stay in the SEC. I could see him taking the LSU job maybe because really, in my opinion, and again, take it for what it's worth, I'm not, the end all be all of college football, but in my opinion, I feel like LSU would be the only job that would be a step up in the SEC. Obviously, Penn State is a huge name, like I just alluded to and explained. But Lane Kiffin probably would only take the LSU job. They got more money. LSU is another one of those names that, like, when you think college football, you're like LSU, Alabama, Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, those type of names. And especially in the SEC, they're always a powerhouse. They're always usually up there, ranked really high, pushing for an SEC championship and getting into the college football playoff. With that being said, I don't know if he'll leave Ole Miss. They're going to have to pay him a lot of money to leave, but he's done well at Ole Miss. Really has them firing this year. They're a solid team in the SEC, so we'll definitely see and keep an eye on who will fill up those three spots. Obviously LSU will run the rest of the season with their interim. I actually don't know his name. I did not see that. Obviously, he's probably someone we don't really, for someone like me, who I would admit is more leaning on the casual side of college football. Don't know his name. But I think he was quoted as saying this is obviously a dream job for anybody. So maybe James Franklin takes this job. That would be kind of wild to see him going from Penn State. And that's kind of what LSU is looking for someone to kind of right the ship, come in, really, really care about college football, build a solid culture. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't think James Franklin's the guy that you go get to take you to a national championship, because obviously Penn State, with their NIL and donors and boosters and everything, obviously had money as well to spend, ranked top 3 in the preseason poll, and we've seen how their season went, losing to UCLA, who hadn't led up to that point, hadn't led in any quarter the whole season, losing to Mountain West teams that they shouldn't be losing to, having a 5-star quarterback that left Tennessee with all that controversy, coming in and beating Penn State, and then obviously they lose Aller, and after that, James Franklin gets fired. So I could see a world where James Franklin ends up at LSU. Not sure about the fit, but I mean, he's a college football coach. He's a football dude. And obviously he got Penn State to a place where they're, like I was saying, they were nationally ranked every year, getting really, really good recruits, had the money to go into the transfer portal and also get the recruits. Nowadays, that's how you get them. You got to offer them money. And so I don't know. He's maybe a guy that comes in, kind of gets you back to a playing field and a level that you want to be at consistently. And he can hold you consistently there. And then maybe you go, find the coach that's going to take you to a national championship. I don't know. That's just kind of my thoughts on it as an observer from outside. Not really diving too far into it, but it'll be interesting to see who's connected. Obviously, with LSU and the money they have and it being the SEC, you give Saban a call. Not sure if he'll come out of retirement. He's been quoted as saying he doesn't want to. It's LSU. He's won a national championship there. Maybe that's enticing enough to come out of retirement, get off game day, and kind of get back on the sideline. Who knows? Some have said maybe Urban Meyers. Obviously, he's liking it over at Fox, being an analyst there. So I don't know. Some big names kind of attached to it. Some names that are currently in positions, retired names, and also names that have currently been fired as well, like James Franklin. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season kind of pans out. See if LSU can kind of right the ship with an interim coach and kind of move on in the SEC, which is going to be a tall task because I mean the SEC. I'm pretty sure it's like more than half of it is in the top 25 of the AP poll, which is crazy. But that's just southern football, man. They love their college football down here. They got the money, and that's just kind of, I mean, as I've lived here for the past 5 years, dude, it is college football. Makes golfing on the weekends easy, especially on Saturday, like 1:00 tee time. Nobody on the golf courses. Makes it nice to get out there. But with that being said, it'll be interesting to kind of keep an eye on, this whole LSU situation, but also Florida and Penn State, who they end up filling those positions with. So I'm sure there's going to be some big names getting some calls here in the next few weeks for sure. Hopping over the pond like we usually do. Again, trying to keep this podcast short, kind of cut out a few things. There's, Man U scratched the top 4. Sunderland's in the top 4 after this weekend. Liverpool dropping games everywhere. I'm pretty sure they've lost 4 straight in the Premier League. I think their last win was like Galatasaray. No, I think they lost to them. They beat some no-namer in the Champions League, I'm pretty sure, but they're starting to crumble right now, which is kind of wild after the season that they had last season, being so dominant. And then Bournemouth obviously having a really, really good season. Those are obviously talking points that, if we had more time, and if Sam was here, we could have obviously dove into a little bit more. But I'm really just going to touch on the main game. I mean, this used to be the game that, like, whether you were a soccer fan, American, European, anywhere in the world, like, you stopped to watch this game. You had both GOATs, giant clubs in La Liga. And the other thing I was thinking of was, we do love, like, parity in most of our leagues. Like, like the NFL season's looking really good because, like, it's looking like there's like 5, 6, 7, 8 really, really good teams that really could make a push for the Super Bowl. Same in the CFP, like, especially with the transfer portal NIL. There are just some, like, there's at the top, all the teams are really, really good. And the same goes for when we watch soccer. Like, we love seeing parity in the Bundesliga, Premier League, and the top 5 leagues in Europe. But there was something back in the day where, like, La Liga was just run by Real Madrid and Barcelona, and obviously Atletico Madrid, obviously was in the mix a little bit, but it was really Real Madrid and Barcelona, and, like, they would just mow through the rest of the league. But then when El Clasico happened, everyone tuned in that game because those games decided the seasons. Those games, like, there was just so much on those games and that rivalry that it just stopped the world. The world stopped to watch El Clasico. But over the years, obviously, with Ronaldo leaving, Messi leaving, and, how bad Barca's been in the past, and, Real Madrid really just kind of taking over and winning the league over and over again for a while, the rivalry kind of, in my opinion, died for a little bit. Like, no one tuned into El Clasico. Obviously, the names weren't quite there, especially when Barcelona was having a hard time signing people. And even if they signed people, they didn't have enough money to register them. That's a whole nother topic for another day. But I think it's back. I think El Clasico is actually back. And I love it. Obviously, Sam and I tuned into it. Sam being a Real Madrid fan, me being a Barca fan, obviously kind of pitted against each other, and we were texting back and forth during this game. And I loved it. Obviously, it wasn't a high scoring affair. Obviously, controversy before, during, and after, which we'll get into. But the first thing I want to talk about, Barcelona, stop playing that high line. What are we doing? What are we doing? Because if we're not scoring 3 or 4 goals a game, we're losing games. Because whether you're Real Madrid or the bottom of La Liga, you're going to score 2+ goals against us every time. 2+ goals against us. Because, yes, high line, and the statistics say, oh, we have the most offsides, offsides traps. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm just so flustered right now because I'm just so over them playing a high line. We catch the opposing team offsides the most in La Liga, I think, even in European football. So for every offsides that we get, though, there's always somebody that's going to time up a run and score goals. And it happens more and more and more, especially when this is the way you play. So when you come to this game against Barcelona, it's like, all right, guys, they're playing a high line. Let's just hold our runs for a half second. Let's make sure we're on sides. And if you're on sides, one-on-one with the keeper, especially when you're playing the likes of like Real Madrid with Vinny, if he gets behind the line, one-on-one the goalkeeper, no one's catching him. And Mbappe for sure, one-on-one with the goalkeeper, no one's catching him. It's like the speed will just terrorize us. And if they learn to hold their runs for like a half second, it's over. Because we're just giving them a one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and at that level, that's basically a guaranteed goal unless you want to get a red card for disallowing a obvious goal scoring opportunity. I'm just over it. Why are we playing a high line? I get the stats say like, oh yes, like one of the best defenses in all of European football because of the stats, but the freaking games don't lie. Like, someone needs to. The other thing is we play it so late in the game too. Like, if we're trying to put a game away, like, just park the bus a little bit, get a point, get all 3 points if we're winning. It's just so frustrating to watch week in and week out us lose these games that we should be winning, these games that we should be putting away because we have an amazing attack. And our defenders are not like, it's not that our defense is bad. It's the tactics. I get Flick wants to play like that, but I'm over it. As a Barcelona fan, I'm over it. But kind of diving into this game, obviously we have Mbappe opening the scoring. Then Fermin Lopez tying it up in the 38th minute, and then Jude Bellingham getting the go-ahead goal in the 43rd minute. This is what I'm saying. And then in the second half, like, yeah, we had our chances. Koundé had a really good chance near the end of the game that he definitely should have put away. But I mean, Real Madrid was still running on us, and we were just defending because of that line. And I would just like to see that, like, if plan A is not working, if the high line's not working, please just drop back a little bit, get some possession, get some shots on goal, and let's try to, 1, hold on to a lead if we have it, but 2, if we're behind, let's go for it. Let's get some possession, let's get the ball moving, and then attack out of the possession. And obviously we just don't learn the lesson, and obviously we dropped this huge game. Because like I was saying, back in the day when both teams are really good, the season rode on El Clasico. It's a little less now, but it's kind of getting back to that, where Real Madrid and Barcelona are definitely the best teams in the league. And so you can't be dropping El Clasicos, because that will decide the league. That will decide who wins the league. And obviously that's a huge point of pride in any league, but especially in La Liga. If you can, because again, like I'm saying, it comes down to you beating each other, and whoever beats each other the most in those 2 meetings during the season ends up winning La Liga. So huge loss by Barcelona. Obviously we're missing Rafinha. I'm pretty sure We were missing Lewandowski, so we're playing our younger guys. But we got Pedri in the midfield balling out. Lamine Yamal was really a no-show in this game, which was really unfortunate for him, which is a good segue into kind of what made this feel like an El Clasico of old. Lamine Yamal, obviously being super young and having the fame that he has in world football right now, doesn't know when to keep his mouth shut. Obviously he was I think he was at a event, and he was obviously on camera because he's Lamine Yamal, but you just can't say stupid stuff, especially leading up to a game of this magnitude. And the stupid stuff that he was saying was, whether he meant it or not, he insinuated that Real Madrid cheat and then complain about it. And whether you meant it literally, figuratively, or didn't mean it at all, those words are not going to land well with the Real Madrid fans, not going to land well with the players. It's just not going to land well at all. So obviously, after Real Madrid beat Barcelona in the game, Carvajal decides to come up to Lamine Yamal, who, again, did not have a great game, did not have the impact that us as Barca fans were hoping for. Comes over to him, kind of gives him a little bit of a, yapping, like, you talk too much kind of symbol, and was like letting him know, like, hey, you can do all your talking off the field, but when it comes down to it, we won and we had the last say. And granted, yeah, they did. And that kind of boiled over. There was a little bit of a fight / brawl / kind of just like coming together, I guess. It wasn't really as aggressive as some people are making it out to say, but all the players kind of like got into it at the end of the game. And that's the feel you want from El Clasico. That's like what you want to see in this rivalry. So that's why I say I think it's back, because the hate and the animosity is just starting to boil over, and I just love to see it. I cannot wait for the next El Clasico, for Barca to come in with bad blood and just really take it to them. Hopefully, this is me talking as a Barca fan, obviously biased. If Sam was here, we would have both sides and both opinions and both biases for sure. But I cannot wait for the next El Clasico, because I think the tension is only going to build from here, especially if it comes down to, obviously, both of them at the end of the season, and that game really, really, really is going to decide the league. That's going to be fun to watch. And this past one was super fun to watch. Obviously did not go my way, did not go Barca's way, but just happy to see that fire and that rivalry is kind of coming to life again. And I'm here for it. Absolutely here for it. Okay, going to finish off the pod with some baseball, NBA, and obviously YouTube golf, like I mentioned in the intro. Don't talk a lot of YouTube golf, like barely any. We barely talk about golf, something that Sam and I are trying to get into. Me more so on the YouTube golf side. I really enjoy watching YouTube golf. It's entertaining to me. And this past week, the Internet Invitational dropped their first episode, and it was phenomenal. Let me tell you, super, super good. The production was high end, really, really good to watch. The storytelling was amazing. But that's not what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the drama that ensued during episode 1. Huge, huge, huge controversy going on in that. But before we get to that, October, the month of sports, had a huge, huge weekend with World Series, NBA, obviously football, both college and NFL, and the European leagues going on as well. We do not talk baseball like ever on this podcast. Maybe it's something we'll have to start doing, but when it gets to October, playoff baseball, especially the World Series, gotta have it on. Obviously, we have the Dodgers and the Blue Jays in the World Series. Tonight is game 5. Actually, that's probably wrapped up by now. I do not know the score to that, but super, super good series. Both teams are really even. Both bullpens are really, really good. Some really good stories on both sides. Obviously, you have Shohei Ohtani and the Dodgers and all the money that they have and the stars that they have. But Toronto has this pitcher, and I'm pretty sure he pitched tonight. He was literally pitching in the minors at the beginning of this year, like low level minors too, not like, oh, I'm gonna get this wrong again. Do not watch a ton of baseball anymore. Watched it growing up, like all up to like 7th, 8th grade. Watched it because that's predominantly what I played, and then I ended up, kind of playing more soccer and basketball, and kind of like faded out of baseball. Kind of wish I didn't. Do not keep up with it as much as I should or want to, but yeah, he was playing in like low level minors, and now he's pitching in the freaking World Series, dude. Like, talk about like just a crazy, like, how fast your life can change. Like, life just moves so fast, but like I couldn't imagine so I build stairs for a living, and it's like, hey Sloan, you build stairs for a living and play in your rec league soccer, which this is not going to be a 1-to-1 comparison, but like freaking the Greenville Triumph just called up and said, "Yeah, we need you. Come play." And you're literally working a 9 to 5, playing reg league soccer, and then boom, all of a sudden you're in the freaking USL 1 championship game or whatever. Obviously, that's not 1-to-1. Obviously, totally different. Because like he's playing minor league baseball, but just super cool, just a super cool story. Like, I mean, that's something they write movies and make movies about. Like, this guy that's, just trying to get his shot into the majors, pitching in the minors, and then gets called up and winds up in the World Series and just balling out all playoffs. He's been playing and pitching super, super well. Obviously took care of my Yankees in the series just before the World Series, unfortunately. But yeah, super stoked. Obviously, in October, got to have the World Series on. If I had to predict, just with how I've seen the games go, I would say probably Toronto wins. The Blue Jays win. I just think their pitching's a little better. Other than Shohei, this he's shown up for the Dodgers, but I really haven't seen anybody else show up. So with that being said, I think the Blue Jays were up in Game 5 tonight, and it was like top of the 8th. So I'm assuming that they won. If they didn't, I would be super surprised because they were like up by like 5 or 6 heading into the 8th. So, but anything can change in baseball. I've seen some wild comebacks, but if I had to pick, I think the Blue Jays get it done. Going back home, I think they can finish up the series on Friday. So definitely going to be tuned into that and keep an eye on that. In the World Series, Game 3 was wild, went 18 innings, tied for the longest World Series game in MLB history. Freddie Freeman walk-off home run. That was a huge, huge moment for them. Super stoked. I was actually, unfortunately, my son was not sleeping well that night. So I had the game on the whole night and almost finished all 18. I think I went to bed in like the 16th or 17th inning. Finally went to sleep, but was able to watch most of that game. Dude, all the players were just ready for it to be done. But obviously, it's the World Series, so it's like you don't want to punt on, like, all those games are huge. Like, any win could turn the tide. So, huge win for the Dodgers in that game in Game 3. But obviously that was a couple days ago. So, just wanted to mention that because that was a really, really cool moment. Very quickly, this is a big story, but it's kind of like, in the world of sports, things have an expiration date because as soon as it happens, like, people are dropping, emergency podcasts. They're talking about it every day if it's a really big story. So, going to touch on this a little bit, even though there's a lot to it. Just give some of my thoughts on it and kind of get off of it because I'm sure it's been blasted all over the sports media world. But the NBA started up like a week and a half ago, and it was literally like day 2, 3, or 4 of the NBA season, and I got breaking news on my phone from like Shams or whatever, and it was like the Portland Trail Blazers coach Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier, who is currently playing for the Hornets, I believe, uh, Hornets, were arrested in this giant gambling scandal. And actually, both arrests were, again, it's been so long. There was so much information that came out, but both scandals are kind of like separate. Chauncey Billups was part of like a not illegal, but a rigged poker operation, kind of wild stuff, like straight out of like Ocean's 8 kind of stuff, where they had like X-ray vision in the table and stuff like that, to count cards, see different cards, literal like from the movies, like glasses that could read marked cards and stuff like that. And so he was a part of that. And then the Terry Rozier was more prop betting scandal, where he I think it was a game last year, 2 years ago, that he told somebody that he was going to take himself out of the game, and so they all bet his unders, so they would those would hit, and they bet like an outrageous amount of money on it, like $200,000 on it. And so obviously that's a no. We've had some players obviously banned for life for that. He's obviously going to be banned for life. But the thing that we haven't had is the FBI coming in and making these arrests and having a huge a huge press release about them arresting these NBA players. And there was more, but this was like the sports angle to it. There was like the mafia was involved in the poker situation and all that. So it was a really, really wild situation, like legitimately something that they're probably going to make a movie about in the future. So just a super interesting, weird, unfortunate way to start the NBA season. But as it continues to unfold, obviously we'll probably talk about it on the podcast. Love to kind of get Sam's opinions and thoughts on it as well. But like I said, obviously these things have an expiration date. This has been all over ESPN, Fox, everywhere. Every sports and news media outlet has talked about this. So definitely a huge thing that will kind of keep tapped into in the coming weeks as the NBA kind of rolls on, for sure. All right, before we get out of here, just something I personally wanted to touch on because it's all over the internet and obviously all over YouTube right now. The Internet Invitational Golf Tournament. 48 creators playing for $1.7 million. Obviously, we don't talk YouTube golf a whole lot, so I won't explain it super thoroughly, but it's a tournament that Barstool, Bob Does Sports, and 4Play Golf created to bring together all these creators to play for a giant amount of money. They decided to do like a Ryder Cup style. Again, if you don't know what that is, you can look that up. But I encourage you guys to go watch it. The production on this thing, super, super good, really, really high quality, and super entertaining. I watched all 3 hours of it. And even though I do enjoy YouTube golf, this would have been an easy watch, even if I didn't. But again, if you guys are tuned into YouTube golf, you kind of know what's going on. I won't explain it any further. But the biggest thing I wanted to talk about in this was the biggest controversy and drama that happened on day one was Luke Kwan. And for those who are tapped into the YouTube space of golf, know who Luke Kwan is. Super, super good golfer. Obviously was with Good for a little bit. Left. I think he wanted to do some professional things. Obviously started his own YouTube channel and runs that as well. But anyways, he had a 9:30 tee time. All right. And kind of how this works is there's one team and another team. So you're not just playing for yourself. How it works is you actually have a team that you're all playing for points, and you help your team by winning your round. And so he had a round of golf scheduled for 9:30 with a partner. PFT from Pardon My Take was playing with him, and he missed it. Slept in. And I'm pretty sure PGA rules, if you miss a tee time, you're disqualified. You don't get to play. And how it works is he was supposed to win his match, and that was supposed to be the easiest match that they would have had all day for him to win. And so he was a guaranteed 1 point. But because he didn't show up, they were giving a 4-stroke penalty. And basically how it worked is he wasn't able to join his teammate PFT until the 5th hole of their 9-hole round. And so the rest of his teammates had to go wake him up to get to his tee time. And because he missed that, they ended up losing that round. And their team got destroyed that day. Got absolutely destroyed. If you guys have watched it, you know what I'm talking about. Obviously, it's not looking good for Team Bob. But my big thing was when they went and woke him up, he just started coming up with all these different excuses of why he missed his tee time. And mind you, again, they're playing for $1.7 million. $1.7 million. And he's showing up late to a tee time, putting his team behind the ball when they're all out there on time, playing for $1.7 million and giving each other a chance at that $1.7 million. And this guy has the nerve, when people ask him about it, he's just like, oh, well, I just came from Norway. Like, I just came from Norway, and so, I overslept. Sorry. But that was the thing. I just said sorry because that is the normal, like, you would think that's like the normal thing to do. That's the decent thing to do. Like, hey guys, I'm sorry that I overslept, and now we're losing and now we're behind the 8 ball because of me. I really want to apologize, and I could be the reason that these people miss out on $1.7 million. But my thing is he doesn't apologize. He just continually just laughs it off, continues to come up with excuses and excuses and excuses, keeps saying, oh, I just came from Norway. Like, dude, we don't give a crap if you came from Norway. Wake up to your freaking alarm. Set 5 alarms if you know. And the kicker is he played a practice round with some guys the day before. Missed that too. And so my biggest problem is just not to have the decency to apologize to your teammates. And on top of that, his teammate PFT, who had to play the first 4 holes of the 9-hole round without him, he showed up on hole 2, Luke Kwan did, and was literally belittling PFT. And PFT already knows that he's not the best golfer. Luke Kwan literally considered a professional golfer in the YouTube space. Like, he's that good. And that's why that round was supposed to be a walk in the park for Luke Kwan PFT. They were supposed to win that handily. And then he shows up late, joins his teammate late, and just starts absolutely tearing his teammate apart when he should be encouraging him to try to win without him because he already messed up. But no, he has the audacity and, I don't know, just no ounce of being a decent human being to, I don't know, encourage your teammate, apologize to the rest of the team instead of just saying, hey, I came from Norway. Sorry, I couldn't wake up. Like, dude. Like, I just watched the entirety of that episode and it just kept coming up because obviously it was the biggest thing that happened that day. You're one of your best players not making his tee time because he's sleeping in, the rest of the team having to go wake him up. It was just in my mind, the absolute lack of decency that he had, and just showed no remorse for it because he just thinks that, oh, I'm just so good at golf. Everyone around me, who cares? I don't care if you're playing for $1.7 million. I don't care if you're playing with your boys on the weekend and you absolutely suck at golf. In no world, one, should you be late, and miss a tee time, especially at an event like that. But 2, to show up and absolutely just belittle your teammate, not even like the other team or anything, belittling your teammate, talking about how bad he is at golf. There's just absolutely no class. And obviously it's all over the internet. I've seen memes, not only memes, just posts about it, like saying dude, he's totally in the wrong. But also there's people kind of defending Luke Kwan, oh yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's just, it does matter. It does matter. Be a decent human being and just apologize. That's all I'm looking for, is you to actually feel bad for it. But whenever anybody talked to him about, missing his alarm and sleeping in, he's just like, yeah, I wish I woke up. Yeah, we do too. So apologize for it, because you're the one that didn't wake up to your alarm. And I know I'm running long on this, but it was just something, as I watched that video, I was like, dude, if it was me and he was on my team, and some of the guys were saying that, they were like, he's dead to me, especially if they lose. The next episode drops on Friday, I believe. And there's another round of Ryder Cup style matches, and obviously he'll probably play in that. But dude, like, just like had to be asked to apologize. And dude, I would be done with him. I would send him home. I don't care how good at golf you are, dude. Like, you do that and you don't have the decency to apologize, the decency to root your teammate on after you just left him out to dry by himself. Like, I don't know. I just really don't have a whole lot of room for that. I'm not saying that I'm the best person in the world. I'm not saying I don't have my flaws, but base level of being a decent human, just apologize, especially when you mess up like that. I don't know, man. I'm not playing golf for $1.7 million, so maybe I don't have room to talk, but I just think it doesn't matter if you're playing for that amount of money. You just got to be a decent human being, apologize, know when you're wrong, and just, I don't know, let everybody know that you're going to do better, I guess. I don't know. Maybe he turns around and wins the tournament for them. That's really the only way I see redemption for him. But kind of spent a lot on that, but really felt strongly about that, I guess. But with that being said, I believe that is a pod. I really appreciate you guys tuning into this episode. Obviously different without having Sam here, different for me as well. Like I said before, really love having Sam on the podcast. We started this together, love doing it together. Hopefully he'll be able to be on next week, and we'll bring you guys a really, really good episode then. If you made it this far, please like and subscribe. That would mean so much to us. Go follow us and rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That would mean the world to us as well. And we will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.